second grade. Before we start off on our next lesson, we're going to go back and review the last problem I gave you yesterday and kind of bring it all together. Yesterday, we were adding our 2-digit and our 3-digit numbers together, and you all did some fantastic work. Whether you were using base 10 blocks or a number line, you were able to really show how you were adding your hundreds, your tens, and your ones together. And you were so creative the way that you did it. Making those tens to make 100, taking those tens to make 100, or taking those ones to make a 10 to make it easier to add. And so I sent you off with a problem about Darren's calculator. And I actually wrote this wrong number at the bottom, even though we could have gone back and seen what we had up at the top. Now Darren's calculator is broken and he doesn't really know whether his answers are correct or not. And so when he put this equation in, 43 plus 13 equals, the calculator came up with 543, right? I know, because you guys showed me as we were going around what the actual answer was. And no matter what work we did, we came up with 156. Our base 10 had 150 within tens, and then six ones to get 156. This friend did the same thing, but added just the numbers. 100 plus 0 was 100. 10 plus 40 is 50, and 3 plus 3 was 6, so we have 156. And even when we use that number line, all those ways showed this, 156. So what was the problem with the calculator? What do you think the calculator got wrong? Yes. Oh, there's a buzz, isn't there? What happens when we don't line those up the right way? What numbers did they add together to get 543? If our choices, if we're adding 113 and 43. Oh, what did they do? Oops, wrong spot. What did they do? Yes, they pushed it over. They didn't line them up the correct way. They added the tens to the 100 to get 5 hundreds instead of the 5 tens that it should have been. When we're adding those up and just that scooting over of just a little bit, we have to make sure when we line them up, we have our hundreds lined up, our tens, and our ones. Lining them up in that hundreds, tens, and ones charts helps with that. You can see that visually there with the base 10. You can see that with our numbers lined up, the digits. And then you can always double check it when we're adding with that number line. So as we're doing our work together today, whether we're adding 2 digits and 1 digits, 3 digits, whatever we're adding, we want to make sure that we're lining up those numbers by their place value. The hundreds with the hundreds, the tens with the tens, and the ones with the ones. So our work today is this. Oh, I'm so excited. Let's go ahead and say our learning target. I can add 3-digit numbers using base 10 models. Yesterday and even today, I was showing you that last little bit. We were using number lines, we were using equations, we were using base 10 models. But we were adding 3 digits and 2 digits. Today's learning is brand new learning. It's learning that we want to start slow and start strong, and we're going to take it bit by bit this week and break down how we can solve this in lots of different ways. And at the end, we'll bring all those ways together and share it. But for now, we're just going to use those base 10 blocks. So whether you're going to draw them or you're going to get them out and actually touch them and hold them, get those base 10 blocks out because that's what we're going to use today. All right? Let's go ahead and get started. There are 214 fish in the giant tank at the aquarium. There are 131 other sea animals in that tank. How many animals live in that tank? Let me read that again for you. There are 214 fish in the giant tank at the aquarium. There are 131 other sea animals in the tank. How many animals live in the tank? What do we already know? There are 214 fish in that tank. What else do we already know? There are 131 other sea animals in that tank. What is the problem asking us? How many animals are in the tank? Absolutely. What equation might be right to match this story? Take a minute and write the equation that you think would match this. And don't forget to write what? A box for the unknown. That's right, second grade. What would your equation be? Why are you putting those two numbers together? Okay, what does the 214 represent? What does the 131 represent? And what is this box for? Wonderful. Friends, remember, if you're at home, feel free to stop us, pause us, and resume us when you're ready. What equation might be right to match this story? Ooh. And why does this equation match this story? What does the 214 represent? The fish. What does the 131 represent? Ooh, the other sea animals, maybe like a little shark. Okay. And what, oh, I put that in the wrong spot. Oh my goodness, what are you guys gonna do with me? Okay, and what does the box represent? All the sea animals. And that includes the fish, right? The fish and the sea animals is that box. We don't know how many there are altogether. We know there's 214 fish. We know there's 131 other sea animals. Could be octopus, could be seals, could be whales, could be sharks, could be anything. But we don't know how many there are altogether. What are those amazing creatures that are filling up this huge tank? Go ahead, and I want to see. Remember, I said in our target, we're using our base 10 models. So you may use your actual base 10s, and I'd love to see you trying to draw those in your journal, or you can just draw your pictures to represent. Remember that when we're representing those, we have our big boxes that represent our 100, our lines represent our 10, and our little dots or our little squares represent our 1. So when you're drawing those, we want to make sure we're doing that. We don't want to take all the time to draw that stick with the 10 little spots. It's not a good use of your time. So when we're drawing those, we want to represent those in that way. Show me how you might solve this. Where are your fish in your model? How many hundreds do you have? What about 10s? And how many 1s? Where are your other sea animals in your model? What did you put together first? And then what did you put together? And what did you put together last? Why did you do it in that order? Remember from yesterday, we were putting our 1s to make a 10. You weren't sure if we were going to have a 10 or 10 1s or 10 10s. So you start with your 1s. Wonderful. And how did you show that in your model? How did you find that total? All right, friends, let's come together in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and done. Remember, you can always pause us, okay? Talk to me, friends, about why so many of you did that hundreds, 10s, and 1s chart. How does it help us by drawing that out and sorting them that way? We don't want this to happen, do we? Right? So we want to make sure we line them up just the right way. So how did you line them? What did you draw first? Okay, so you had your 200s, your 110, and your 4 1s. And then what did you do? Your 100, 3 10s, and 1 1. And what did you add together first? Why did you add your 1s together first? That's right. They said, we didn't want, yesterday there were so many times where we were making 10 1s and trading it out for a 10, or making 10 10s and trading it out for a 100. And so we started with the 1s because we want to make sure there wasn't a 10 that we were making. All right, so when you did that, what did you find with your 1s? You have 5 1s, 4, and one more is 5. 3 tens and 1 tens is 4 tens, which is 40, 10, 20, 30, 40. And then what about your 100s? There were 3 hundreds. And so what was your total? 300, 40, and 5. Look at that expanded form. Very, very nice. Now, when you drew that, when you had 300, 40, and 5, how many hundreds did you have? Okay. How many tens? And 5 ones. How many wrote it like this? That was 3 hundreds, 4 tens, and 5 ones. Okay? How many wrote it in expanded form? 300, 40, and 5. What do both of those show you, though? 345. So when we have hundreds, tens, and ones, hundreds, tens, and ones, we have 3 hundreds, 4 tens, and the 5 ones. So how many, 340, how many sea animals do we have total in that tank? 345. Yes. When we're drawing them out with our base 10 blocks, we can see that very easily. Let's see if we can do that same thing with our second problem. Second problem is a naked problem. I want you to use your base 10 blocks to show me how you would add 203 and 160. How would you add 203 and 160? Where are your tens in 203? Why don't you have any? Ooh, there's a 0 in the tens place. So where are your tens in 160? Where are your ones in 160? There are no ones in 160? How do you know? There's a 0 in the ones place. So what digits are going to change? Oh, interesting. Okay, let's draw it out, shall we? Okay, so we have our hundreds, tens, and ones. Hundreds, tens, and ones. And when you drew out 203, what did you find? 2 hundreds. Why did you draw 0 tens? Because there's a 0 in the tens place. And how many ones? Okay, what about the number 160? There's the 100. There's your 6 tens. And how many ones? Okay, so then what did you find? You have a 3. There's 3 hundreds. I'm going to draw that all the way down. 6 tens. And 3 ones, which makes 363. Okay, another friend did it a little different way. How did you show your work? Still using base 10 blocks. Okay, still doing that. Didn't sort them, right? Didn't use that chart, but what did you notice? There's 360 in your tens and 3 in your ones. And what number did that equal? 363. So what is the sum of 203 plus 160? 363. Did we have to group any together to make a 10 or 10 ones? Not today. We're not regrouping today at all, are we? We're not having to do that. Now, we know that when we were adding those, that the 3 didn't change and the 6 didn't change from those because there were 0 ones at one point and 0 tens to add together. But we did see that we were adding that 200s and that 100 to make that 300s. In your work today, I want you to show me how you can use base 10 blocks to help you add 2 3-digit numbers together. Remember that you're adding your hundreds to your hundreds, your tens to your tens, and your ones to your ones. Happy solving!